All right, Kenneth, it's been a long, long time since we broached this subject of veteran entrepreneurship, entrepreneurship, and really kind of touch these subjects. And, I've been reposting some of the reels and highlights because we've been getting a lot of good traction and conversation from those. So thank everyone for watching those and commenting and giving their different perspectives on that. So, when to leave your 9 to 5, right? It is so, so very important. I was talking mess, about a year and a half, 2 years ago, when I was in that process of figuring out how to leave and when to leave my 9 to 5. And you literally through the podcast, you guys are seeing us learning and growing, right? In all aspects and growing through our lives and different things. So, I got my hat on. Wife got me this last year. I decided to leave that 9 to 5. And it was a little bit of a difficult decision, but not really, right? Because ultimately, one of the things that drove me, one of the things I said, and, I've heard it in a song, the wise man once said, taking your daughter to school, that's real goals, right? So I wanted to be able to, hey, when my daughter started school, I wanted to be able to take her. I wanted to be able to own my day, control my day, and also not limit myself into my earning potential. And there was a lot of different things I saw. I had a very decent career, economic wise. And, some people would just be happy with achieving that. But I know my full potential. And I knew I was not being the most successful and the best person I could be by staying with that employer. And they threw it in my face even more because they would hire consultants and contractors. And I'm like, and military individuals could attest to this, right? They making way more money than me, and I'm 5 times as talented and different things of that. So just knowing and understanding those different frustrations, and it's like, hey, let me take the leap to go ahead and establish a business and go on that journey because, like I said before, I'm either going to get rich or die trying, so that's what we own right now, man. That's what we're talking about within this, and talking a little bit about my journey and really just kind of reflecting on those things in this segment here.
Great. I think, hey, first and foremost, um, I want to honor you for your courageous leap there because I'll tell you right now, it's not easy, right? It's not easy. It takes a lot of different strength and also courage to be able to take that first step. So congratulations on the first year, being able to go ahead and make sure again that leap has been taken. So because at the end of the day, when security is taken up under you, sometimes so many different emotions comes about, right? But you've been walking through this with again very solid, strong, and with a great foundation up on you. So definitely tip my hats off to you.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely. I mean, and on the surface, right? Because, a lot of stuff happened, behind the scenes, right? And, I kind of talked to you about kind of when I knew it was time to leave, and I kind of go to that story regarding seeing, less talented people, receive opportunities, and, just also knowing where I wanted to be and needed to be in life. And frankly, just looking at it and looking at the way the economy is going to outpace my income if I stay here, right? So if I could even continue to get raises, because 2025 would have been a real good year for me, if I would have stayed there, right? And still being a part-time entrepreneur and, still doing real estate and putting all three of those incomes together, it's going to be a pretty good year. I pass up on a pretty good year to have a possibility of a really phenomenal lifetime and future. And that's the reason why you make those leaps and you take those chances.
No, most definitely. You take the chances with the eye on the goal and keeping it positive and straight to the goal. But like you said, during the times of getting to the goal, it's very difficult. It's a very difficult path. When we talk about entrepreneurship versus working a job, to be very honest with you, entrepreneurship isn't what it's cracked up to be. What everyone thinks it is. There are long days, there are long nights, there are also different roadblocks that you run into. But at the end of the day, it shows you who you are. It's gonna unpack and really show you who you are, and you're gonna have to actually look in the mirror and have to deal with that. Whether if it's a positive or whether if it's a negative, because you go through every emotion. You go through every emotion. Sometimes you may not feel good enough. Sometimes you may not feel that are worthy enough to even be in the position that you are to be able to take the journey of entrepreneurship. But at the end of the day, when I tell you this, it's an opportunity that you could be losing out on. So which one would you rather sit with? Is regret or having that year of the 2025? I think it's a lot more. It's the regret, living with regret is a lot more valuable. Not living with regret is a lot more valuable than having that year of 2025. Right?
No, no, absolutely, absolutely. And as we talked about in the last few segments, right? We're talking about opportunity and the concept of that and the importance of for veterans applying for your benefits, purchasing a home, and being able to utilize those different equity tools and VA benefits and things to be able to secure your future, and have more income and have more security for yourself and different factors of that matter, right? So, because you think about it as a veteran, hey, you got your benefits, then at least you're not necessarily starting off from ground zero in terms of leaving your job. And I wouldn't even recommend you to leave your job if you're starting off from ground zero. So actually, let me roll that back there, right? So if you're not making, and we said this on the previous video, if you're not making at least 3 times your salary in your business, it's not time to leave yet.
But
So
consistently, let's make sure and we're not talking about, oh, we did a good 3 months. No, probably 3 years. Let's make
absolutely.
it secure.
Yeah, make sure that is secure. And with that advice, Kenneth, I know you founded Veterans for Veterans, quite some time ago, and you've been utilizing, and I believe last couple years you left your full time employment with the VA to embark on this journey here. And how has those last few years been for you in terms of making that decision and where you are now and being able to reflect back on that?
That's a great question, right? When we talk about entrepreneurship, it's not a very inbox question. There's so many different components of it. But reflection, going back to things, it's a very bumpy road, right? And what I mean by bumpy, I don't mean in the sense of in the person myself. It's just a bumpy road, regardless in any type of entrepreneur endeavor. It takes a lot. It takes a lot. There are sleepless nights. There are different birthdays you may not make. There may be friends you may lose. There may be different opportunities that you can't take. There's so many different components, but one huge thing is that understanding, that you need to steer the ship. Every one, whether if it's employees, partnerships, or anything, uh, I mean, everyone is not going to treat your entrepreneurial journey or your business the way you would. And you want to surround yourself with people who are living in excellence on a continuous basis. And why I say that is because if they're living in excellence with what they have, no matter what, they are going to remain at a level of standard that you want to maintain on a continuous basis. And if you have someone who is living at a level of excellence, it's easier to bring that person to the next level of where your journey is going. And it's not an easy journey. It's not an easy journey, but it's just, you want to surround yourself with great people.
Absolutely. Surrounding yourself with great people. But again, you have to take that first step, right? And the first step is maximizing opportunity. And so since we're in the entrepreneurship, because that's a whole nother thing, because that's kind of how I cheated the system, right? I cheated the system as an entrepreneur. We got a whole video on that. I won't get into, that right now because we got a whole lot of things to cover. But what I do want to cover is a concept that I learned in business school. Shout out Richard Moore. You're back in the day, undergrad, right? Opportunity cost and defining and understanding that, right? So, now you can ask ChatGPT what that means in a breakdown. Back then, you didn't have that,
You
right?
got to crack open the book.
You had to crack open the books. Now we old enough to talk about back in the day, man. That's crazy. It's crazy how time flies, right? But opportunity cost is the cost of making one decision over another, right? So when we talk about that in the concept of going to school, post-secondary education, it's the opportunity of say, hey, do I sacrifice the next 4 to 5 years of income I could have gotten by going and doing a labor intensive job, whether it be in the casinos here in Las Vegas or whether you're somewhere else working in construction or doing different things of that nature, or do I go or even go join in the military to do that 4 to 6 year enlistment, right? And then going to college after that. It's the opportunity cost of making one decision versus another. So obviously, if you go to college right now, right away, you're full-time living on campus, may have a part-time job, but your income is going to be significantly less than if you would have taken a job right out of high school, making maybe 35, 40,000 a year, which would have been considered a very good amount coming from high school, not having any kids, not having many liabilities and things that way. However, the other side of that is that you may stay at a certain point, right? Because you're only going to promote so far without having education or technical training. So, definitely you have to kind of skirt that line of doing that. And even, when joining the military, I'm sure there was a lot of thought about that for yourself, right? Where I want to go to college right now. I want to do this. Well, if you sacrifice that 4 to 6 years of being enlisted first and then went to college, hey, now I don't have to worry about student loans. I don't have to worry about this because I have all of that covered. And while I was in the military, I could even take some classes to lessen that burden when I get out, right? So weighing all of those different factors, whether it be monetary or otherwise, that's all part of evaluating your opportunity cost.
Most definitely. So let me ask you, just in the journey, right? But thinking about their 18-year-old self, when we talk about the opportunity cost, do you think, even in today's economy, do you think for yourself that you should have taken a job at the time of the age of 18 and being able to work your way through the ranks and gain the experience, skills, and transferable skills that can go throughout different industries? Or do you think your education, taking the time to go to college to get your education, serves you in a better direction?
No, that's a great question. And I think that question is, and the answer to that, the answer is nuance, right? Because it's really going to depend on the individual. Now, myself, I wouldn't have known what job to take that would have been able to further me into a sustainable career that I would have been happy with at that particular time. So there were literally not enough opportunities that I was aware of at that particular point without going to college to be able to take care of myself long term. So I think for myself during that time, I think college was the best thing because it also teaches you a lot of transferable skills. And when we're talking about the job market today, a lot of why some young people struggle is because they don't have the transferable skills and critical thinking skills to be able to work and do things in certain jobs and corporations, so they can't seize those opportunities.
Yeah, most definitely. I think there's a lot of correlation between the current college state and the skill level of the job market now, or the candidates of the job market. But let me ask you now, obviously, you know, it's nuance, right? But at the end of the day, when we talk about in a more economical fashion, and we talk about strict compensation, right? You talk about student loans in college versus working a job and on a day to day basis that can potentially get you a raise or potentially garner those transferable skills where you can go get another skilled job and work your way up there. Um, what is your advice to the younger generation now who is going through that going through that same decision?
Ask ChatGPT. But no, man. Really, they really just kind of consider, what they want to do, right? And a lot of times you don't really understand what you want to do long term. So I think even then and even now, some type of post secondary training and skill set building is mandatory, right? It's going to be mandatory whether you decide to go to the military, whether you decide to go to traditional college or university, or whether you decide to learn a trade. I would say you would want to do one of those three things. You would not want to go into a job that's hiring you without any of those things. So if a job doesn't require one of those three things, I would say stay away from that because that's ultimately going to be a dead end job in most cases.
Mm, mm. Yeah, most definitely. It definitely will be a dead end job, but just even still with those transferable skills, we want to make sure that we're talking about transferable skills that's in an industry that you're looking towards, right? Because again, we could talk about the opportunity cost, right? You can be at that dead end job. You think a transferable skill is going to be related to engineering, and you're actually in the restaurant business at an entry level position. Well, that entry level position has no skills that is going to get you into that position of engineering. So just making sure that you are taking the right steps. There's so many different ways to figure out if you're taking the right steps. Information is going to be one of the keys here today, right? In today's world, because you can get that information at a drop of a dime in today's world. But I will also say that sometimes a lot of the job market today, or just the world today, is trying to leverage entrepreneurship and make it a thing, or create a business, or create some type of sustainable income outside of the job market, which has created this world of independent contractors, right? Uh, Now, I just think, with the world of independent contractors that are being had, it's hard to say, when to leave your job. Because I know we kind of spoke about, make your income three times more than your income on a regular basis. But when we talk about that income level there, it's just, I want to ask you, with the 1099 contractors and also working a job, where do you see that going? Just in your experience, because when you a year ago isn't where the world is today.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I really saw it going towards a more of a 1099 situation anyway, because what I alluded to of kind of my reasoning and kind of eye opening moment, part of that was seeing the company come in and hire contractors to do large scale projects. So basically saying, hey, I know the skill set that it takes to actually do this role. We don't even want to hire and manage that. We'll rather hire somebody outside so that we don't have to deal with all the components of managing that there. So, that's why I saw that as an opportunity. And obviously we're into business consulting and helping individuals that way. That's really a wave of the future and where things are going, where as you continue to put regulations on employers, they're just going to stop employing people.
Mm.
Like, because they don't necessarily have to. I mean, you go to the gym, you're there, or you go to the airport and you see what this company cleaning and doing the trash. No, they don't work for the airport. Oh, they don't work for the gym. They're independent contractors, right? Why did they contract out? Why are so many companies hiring consultants to do this, to do that, and working on special projects when they frankly have employees who are overworked and underpaid already that would love to take on that project and be even more overworked if it's going to get them some additional pay. But they don't allow for those opportunities for, whatever reasons, which is beyond our conversation today and may be beyond, my pay grade here, to be able to speak on that. But yeah, I think that's the wave of the future, right? Because not only contracting out humans, but now we're going to be contracting out robots for these companies. And we're replacing humans. And we're already seeing that in terms of you're going to the grocery store. How many cashiers do you see? You're going in and even people needing to stock and do a lot of different roles. A lot of these things are becoming as automated as possible. They just haven't brought in the actual physical robots yet. But, we said Tesla got a robot. They said, what, 25, 35,000? And that's just one-time fee. So how much do you want to make a year, right? You want to make more than 35,000 a year, and you only could work 8 hours a day, and you want vacation, and you want to call out when your daughter or you get sick and all these different things. The robot ain't calling out. You working around the clock. So when we're talking about improving efficiencies and things, that is the wave of the future.
Most definitely. Most definitely. That's awesome. And just to add upon that, though it's the wave of future, people matter, and a lot of these companies need to also understand that, because at the end of the day, the people who are purchasing the product or utilizing the service that you are providing. So there must be an area for people too.
Yeah, definitely must be an area for people. But unfortunately, we are in a capitalistic society. So there's going to be an area for elite people, right? And so when we go back to talking about that decision, whether you should just join the workforce or whether you should go to college or whether you should go to the military or whether you should learn a trade, and why I say you need to do one of those three things is because that's where you're going to be able to build your social network for real. Not on Facebook, not on Instagram, not on TikTok. You're going to be able to build that within those communities, right? Because as you know, military community is a family. You met individuals there that you've created lifetime relationships with. College and university is similar to that. Same thing with going and learning a trade. Those tradesmen, that's their own thing, right? And they have their own ecosystem where they share resources and everything of that nature. So as a young person, you want to try to get into those ecosystems. And if you're young enough, you may be able to take advantage of all three, right? Because you can go into the military, do your 4 to 6 years of service, or even do more than that, and then go to college or university, and then go learn a trade using a boat rehab program. So you literally, utilize all three of those different things. And when we're talking about entrepreneurship and the push to entrepreneurship, what's really going to set you apart? If you are a part of any of those elite groups there, you're able to actually build the social capital to learn and build that network of individuals where you could have employees to work in your business. Your buddies in the military, your buddies in college, your buddies within that trade, starting a business with them. Now you're building an ecosystem of like-minded individuals to be able to do that with. And from a standpoint of looking at people that want to help you, nobody is going to want to help you until you help yourself, right? And as a young person, you put yourself in the best situation when you are a college student and say, hey, I want to go learn from Mark Cuban or, whoever, right? And if you're not in college or you're not doing something, Mark Cuban going to look at you and be like, what? You get off, you just sitting on the couch and you want me to help you, right? But now, oh yeah, I'm a sophomore at Michigan State or hopefully make up a school in Dallas. Oh yeah, I know that, or know wherever he went to school at or something. And he gonna be like, okay, for sure. What's your GPA? What you doing? Okay, bet. You know what? Talk to my assistant and we're gonna plug you in something, right? You're gonna be more likely to get help as a young person, but you're going to be even more likely to get that support and mentorship if you're a young person that's already a part of an ecosystem and doing something for yourself. So that's going to be very, very valuable for individuals to instill that in their children, or, and if you're a young person listening, instill this into yourself.
Yeah, true indeed. True indeed. I think just with that as well, asking for those opportunities, or those opportunities don't just come along. You have to be gracious enough to want to serve those opportunities as well, right? It's still the grind, right? Definitely even in entrepreneurship, that's still the grind. That ecosystem that you speak of, those are the people you're going to reach out to first, right? It's going to be friends and family. Then it's going to be beyond. That's going to be your social sphere. And then from your social sphere, that's when, again, you're going to be impacted by strangers if you're doing good out here in the world, right? So having that ecosystem that you build, make sure you take care of that ecosystem, because sometimes that ecosystem may not take care of you during your journey, but that doesn't mean you lower your standard for the ecosystem. I mean, lower your standard for that person within the ecosystem. So make sure that you're really going to bat for people, and make sure, obviously, be humble enough to work the job that isn't paying you, but it's garnering you the experience to get you to where you're going to go, right? Or be able to take an internship. You know, I do not see a lot of people willing to take an internship, and that's a big thing. Big internships, they talk about that social ecosystem that you say. That's where you can enlarge it and continue to grow. Be involved in college, be involved in your job, so you can be able to grow that community of yours.
Absolutely, yeah. And that's for young people, and for a lot of our, adults 35 and up too, right? Because, I know people that are literally, laid off right now who still wouldn't want to take an internship. You know, they're not doing nothing right now, but if you offered them an internship that was low paying or no paying, doing exactly what they love to do, they'd be like, oh no, I'm not getting off the couch for that. And it's just like, well, you mean to tell me I'm going to pay you something to be able to learn everything that you need to know to be able to further your goals and your vision, and you don't want to do that? You are that arrogant to think you could only be paid to do certain positions? It's a different perspective. It's a different perspective for sure. And now, and we think about scaling a business, right? And, we're thinking about this journey I've embarked on more recently, Kenneth embarked on a few years ago. The main thing that I want to kind of close out and let everyone know is that the world isn't going to stop while you're scaling a business. Understand and know that, right? The world is not going to stop while you're scaling a business. Everything is not going to go your way. It's just not. People will die. Family members are going to have funerals. Your kid is going to get sick. You're going to have financial issues because your business is not generating enough money at a particular time. You may have, issues, whether it be with a spouse or whether it be with other loved ones, trials and tribulations that way, right? So, et cetera, et cetera. Like, life is going to go on. And as a business owner versus being an employee, you could just go and call FMLA and be like, hey, you know what? I don't want to come to work for the next 4 to 6 weeks. I'm dealing with mental health, right? And, mental health is nothing to joke about, right? But unfortunately, and more importantly, and why I'm echoing this sentiment and this point, is that you have to understand that when you're a business owner, that, hey, you may be dealing with mental health ailments and different things, and you can't just walk away from that business and be like, hey, I just need to take some time for me. It could even be a day. It might be a particular day that you're just not feeling it and say, hey, I just need this one day. It's like, nope, everything gonna go wrong that day, and you can't even take that time out. So these are the things that you have to consider when you're embarking on that journey.
Yeah, that journey, it's a journey, right? And regardless on how you take the journey, My advice to you personally would remain focused. Remain focused. Um, a lot of things are going to happen, and you, at the time, you think it's going to be the end of the world, but it's not. Right? Take the time out to take a step back to stay grounded, and how you stay grounded is being the person who you are, and being the person who you are and always will be, right? Because again, a lot of times you try to adopt other components because you may see it working for this, or you may see it working for that. But the only thing that's going to be able to push you through those tough times is remaining focused and remaining dedicated, because you understood what you took this journey for and who you took it for. And that's why you tap into the why. Your why is going to continuously unpack the reasons for getting that inner strength, focus, soundness, and also getting you over the hump. Because at the end of the day, there's different levels and different breakpoints that you're always going to be able to take on and also deal with. You know, um, you may not have in the entrepreneurship journey, you may not have that original desire, right, all the time. But if you have that foundation and focus, and also understanding who you are and what you are doing it for, because that why matters, nothing else matters. Everything else is temporary, and what's going to happen is going to happen. But you being the person in charge, make sure you stay focused, make sure you stay grounded, and make sure you stay educated. Continue to educate yourself. Most entrepreneurs, what they do, they limit themselves to a piece of education that they thought could take them to the next level, and it will not. It will not. You're a forever learner, and you need to be that to be able to grow your business. But most will stay stagnant, right? But we're in a forever changing world. This world is moving so fast. In our historic, our history, we've never seen change like this as fast as it's ever been. So you have to keep up, and it's going to test you. It's going to test you every day. But as long as you navigate it, stay focused, you'll be fine.
Absolutely. And, and thinking about that test, right? And, something that we kind of debate about all the time off camera is, things being hard, right? And, a quote that I have here, whether I made it up or ChatGPT made it up, is here, right? So, one of the things that I want to say is, it's not any one thing that's hard, but it's the weight of everything at once, right? And, that's something that you really have to kind of look at, right? So, because most of us, we're not trying to join special forces, or we're not trying to climb Mount Everest, or we're not trying to join the NBA or do certain things like that. And so when you think about it, most things that we want to accomplish, there's actionable steps to reach those goals. But we have to be willing to build the habits to be able to be successful within that component. Even if we think about it socially, and we think about it within a marriage, for example, it's like, oh man, marriage and kids and all of that stuff is hard. It's like, is it hard, or is it hard because you have 50 other things going on as well, right? But when you really look at and kind of see, well, what's going on, it's really the effort that you want to put into your marriage, and you not wanting to put into that effort, you not wanting to put in that effort into your marriage is the hard concept, right? You're not wanting to build those habits and stack those habits for that marriage or for that relationship to be successful. That's what's hard. The actual relationship and dealing with the person isn't hard. This person, their likes, dislikes, this and that, but it's like, I don't feel like doing what I know this person would like me to do, right? And that's, one example there. But then when we think about it in terms of what needs to be successful in business, or what needs to be successful in fitness and all of these different things, it's like, well, if you go to the gym, burn 1,000 calories, and, you eat less than 2,000 calories and count your macros, you could probably reach that fitness goal, right? Or you could probably do this, right? But it's hard with everything combined to be able to stack those habits to be able to consistently do those things, because it's like, oh, well, yeah, I want to do that, but I'm sitting at a desk all day and now I got to wake up early and to do this or do this after work. But then I got the family and kids, but then I have this going on and I starting a business. So in managing and scaling a business, and now I got to put 12 to 14 hours on that. So something is going to fall by the wayside, right? So you have to kind of understand those different nuances and being able to dedicate the time to what you feel like is going to be the most productive and make the most impact on your life, right? So there's going to be stages in your life where committing that 12 to 14 hours a day in your business is going to be the most important thing for you. There's going to be times in your life where you're not going to work a minute past 5 p.m. because you value that personal connection and that time with your family. There's going to be other times in your life where you on the MyFitnessPal app, doing all of that and on your health kick because you got a vacation coming up or something, right? But there's always going to be stages and understanding that and giving yourself grace that when you are laser focused in on one area, something is going to go by the wayside, but don't allow that to go by the wayside for too long, because then you destroy the progress and where you are within that particular stage in lane of your life.
100%, right? For me, I receive balance, right? That's what I receive from the conversation, balance. It's unheard of. If you're striving for excellence in everything that you're doing, you're never going to have balance. So again, going into MyFitnessPal, right? That again, you're striving for excellence. What are the top tier people doing in that application? Strive for excellence. What are the top people doing in having the excellent marriage? Strive for excellence. What are the top people doing in business? Striving for excellence. Well, if you strive for excellence, it's going to be hard for you to miss in certain areas. Even if some people may not think like, hey, what are you doing here? Because again, it's going to be it's going to be so much noise, but you have to focus to be able to really level the playing field and where you want to be. But at the end of the day, you have to strive for excellence continuously as a business owner and as an entrepreneur on this journey. You have to.
Absolutely, man. So great segment, great podcast. Continue to like, comment, subscribe, all that stuff, man. If you made it this far, then you almost like family, man. So go ahead and, what up, cousin? So what's up, man? I definitely appreciate you for watching. And any questions that you have regarding this segment or anything, definitely reach down in the comments. We have a veteran community. Let's continue to learn, grow, and prepare to compete. We out. Peace.